Did CIG really sit down for 2 hours to talk about tech again? Yes, they did. And I sat down for 2 hours to listen to them talk about tech again. So that you can now sit down for a reasonable amount of time and listen to me talk about them talking about tech. This makes sense in a Bob way, I promise. So, welcome to Citizen Bob's Starcitizen Content Creation, the Circle of Life. This was a deep dive with CTO Benoit Beauséjour, not marketing fluff, not cheap commercials, well, almost not cheap commercials. This was actual engineering talk, the kind where you nod like you understand, then quietly Google serialized variables afterward. So let's translate this into something resembling human speech, or at least Bob speech. Let's start with server meshing. Alright, 1 year after 4.0, did server meshing actually work? And we immediately begin with a shocker. Yes, it did. Not perfectly, not magically, but yes. A year ago, server meshing went live, and the expectation across the community ranged from cautious optimism to this will destroy everything and we will all become space zombies. Instead, it's mostly held. Servers can crash now without taking your entire existence with them. You don't instantly lose ships, cargo, and your will to leave because one node had a bad day. Crashes get isolated to specific areas instead of detonating the entire shard like a chain reaction of sadness. Player counts per shard climbed. We've seen gatherings in the hundreds actually happen without the universe immediately folding in on itself. And more importantly, the universe itself expanded. Pyro, Nix, multiple systems, that was basically impossible before. So, server meshing didn't fix everything, but it built the floor we're all standing on now. So, what's next? Dynamic server meshing, or as they carefully call it, quasi-dynamic, which is engineer language for, well, it's dynamic, but we're being careful with that word because we know you will hold us to it. The idea is simple. If a bunch of players gather somewhere, servers spin up to handle it. If nobody's around, they spin down and go on with their game of Texas Hold'em. They've already been tested it internally, and like all early tests in Starcitizen, it worked, then broke, then worked again, then asked for 10,000 servers for no reason. So, progress. Moving on to other subjects, CIG called 2025 the year of playability. Is that a bold claim? Well, it's bold, but it's also not wrong. The last year wasn't about flashy features as much as it was about stabilizing the experience, fixing the stuff that makes you log off after 20 minutes and go stare at a wall. Transit systems, for example, elevators, trams, those little journeys between places that used to feel like Russian roulette with doors, they've been stabilized quite a bit, and internally there's apparently a group lovingly referred to as the Transit Heroes, which sounds like a Marvel team whose only power is making elevators behave. They've also been rebuilding the transport system entirely so it actually worked with server meshing instead of fighting it. The first tech review for that is happening around the New Babbage area. The long-term plan is to replace the old transit system completely. And after fixing the transportation system, they also decided to make it almost irrelevant, allowing us to spawn in our hangar directly. Now that's logic, but hangar spawning works now more reliably. Weather systems, bounty mechanics, interdictions, lots of smaller systems got attention. Even the graphics pipeline is being updated with the Vulkan integration, so future visuals upgrades don't melt your PC quite as aggressively. And yes, we got a weaponized mech, because Starcitizen will always prioritize cool before practical. The other elephant in a room full of elephants is persistence and item loss. Will the game finally stop deleting my belongings like a cosmic tax collector? That's one of the biggest focuses right now, persistence, specifically a new item recovery and imprint system. The goal is simple in theory and extremely complicated in practice. Your ships and items should persist across patches. If they're injured, they shouldn't just vanish because the universe updated. The system takes snapshots of what you own so you can recover it if things go wrong. This sounds obvious for most games, but for Starcitizen, it's a database horror story. You're dealing with nested inventories inside ships, inside locations, inside servers, all with the serialized data that needs to migrate forward between patches without corrupting itself. It's the kind of backend problem that makes engineers stare into the distance and rethink their life choices. But it's coming, and it's a big deal because nothing kills momentum faster than logging in after a patch and discovering your entire hangar has been spiritually cleansed. Now for the main event of the evening, the freight elevator saga. Why on earth are freight elevators still such a dramatic subplot? Because they're absurdly complex, and because they touch persistence, inventory, physics, and server authority all at once. There were over 70 known issues with them, more than 50 have been fixed. The remaining ones are the tricky ones, mostly around item loss, which is the thing players care about most. CIG is very aware that if a freight elevator eats your cargo, you don't care about the technical explanation, you just care about the cargo. So this is high priority and honestly, it should be. Now to more trivial and pleasant topics like social and quality of life. Because life is not about having and losing stuff, we also need love, passion, purpose, and then social systems, controls, and general quality of life. The current Mobiglass social interface is outdated and being replaced with a new Comlink app. Chat is getting a full overhaul with better notification, party finding, and organization tools built directly into the game. VoIP is being scaled to handle more players without turning into a robotic chaos. And then there's controls. Even Benoit called this out personally. Right now, managing control bindings is, let's say, rough. No proper cloud sync, devices reorder themselves, complex setups become a puzzle every time something changes. And for players running hotel setups that look like cockpit replicas, this is a nightmare. Lucky me, I have just my mouse and WASD. Crafting and inventory. Is crafting finally becoming a real thing? Yes, slowly, but yes. The crafting tag preview apparently went well. It's tied closely to the inventory rework, which is also progressing. The inventory system is being rebuilt to be faster, cleaner, and less like you're managing a spreadsheet from 2003. Icons render faster, stacking works better, equipment management is smoother, proximity inventories are smarter. All the little things that make interacting with items feel less like filing taxes. The hope is that once this lands, crafting can properly roll out with it. Target timing is somewhere in that early 2026 window, though as always with Starcitizen, timing is a flexible concept. Now about instancing. Instancing in an MMO, should we be worried? Not really, this is more of a supporting system than a replacement. Instancing lets CIG create controlled spaces, private hangars, mission areas, large events, without needing the entire shared universe to simulate everything at once. It plugs into server meshing and transport systems so you move in and out seamlessly, no loading screens, no immersion breaks. The first major content built around this is Siege of Horizon Redux. Big structured gameplay that can actually run reliably because it's not fighting the entire galaxy at once. Think of it less as a shrinking the universe and more as giving certain activities stable environments inside it. And what about regional servers, VR, economy exploits, all the usual questions? Regional selection still exists as it does now, though they're evaluating smarter shard deployment based on player density. VR support exists experimentally. It's not a priority, but it works surprisingly well given how complex the engine is. Let's call it more of a passion project than a roadmap pillar. Economy exploits are being investigated by a dedicated team. They're intentionally not talking too much about details because the moment you explain an exploit publicly, someone tries it. The plan is targeted fixes instead of a full wipe, so progress without resetting everyone's life. And yes, and here we are with the ship commercials almost. A massive battle cruiser is coming. Very large, very military, very likely to threaten wallets sometime around May. So, what's the real takeaway from this whole tech talk? Server meshing worked well enough to unlock the next phase. Now the focus is on stability, persistence, and quality of life, the unglamorous systems that make everything else possible. Dynamic meshing, instancing, inventory rework, social tools, it's infrastructure season. Not the most cinematic updates, but the kind that slowly transform the game from ambitious tech demo into something that actually holds together under pressure. And honestly, for once, the trajectory feels steady. Okay, citizens, if you made it through this breakdown, congratulations, you now understand Starcitizen's backend better than most of the internet. If you enjoyed this, well, you're weird, but you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and please, please be kind to elevators. I'll see you in the verse, citizens. Bye bye. Would you like a more immersive experience in Star Citizen, but your VR headset isn't up to the task and you don't want to spend $400 trillion on a tracker? Try Be My Tracker for free and discover how your simple webcam can work magic and change everything. Check the link in the comments.